Most welcome to yet another beautiful show. Of course, it's a beautiful day here at HTV. HTV is Humanist TV Africa. But of course, all of us are Africans, so Africa is used symbolically. Humanist TV Africa, here we are. It's a virtual TV, of course, with physical studios in different countries. My name is Kato Mukasa. I'm Ugandan, interested in issues human rights and, of course, issues humanism. And I want to encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Humanist TV Africa. And of course, our Facebook page has the same name, Humanist TV Africa. In the studio is Dennis Bongole, who does the production. I want to also encourage you to write to us at humanisttvafrica@proton.me. Write to us at humanisttvafrica@proton.me. You want to volunteer with us, you want to tell us what's happening in your country, in your locality, challenges there, successes there. You want to showcase your country. This is the right platform. We are looking for volunteers. Remember, we are an NPO, we are an NGO, a not-for-profit organization. Don't work for money. We are not paid to do what we do, but we simply love to do it continuously, because we know if you come here and share these ideas, we are going to change one person at a time. We are interested in changing attitudes. We are interested in a fair, equitable, inclusive world. That's why we are here. Now, write to us if you want to join us as a panelist, as a news anchor, as someone who can give us information from your country. Please write to us at Humanist TV Africa @proton.me. The email is there. Dennis and Brian Kabeko. Dennis is in Uganda, Brian is in Kenya. We'll be able to reply you because those are our administrators. We are looking for volunteers, people who can work with us, who can advance the ideals we stand for. We are humanists and we aspire to keep it that way. Now, today in the studio is my sister, Anya. That is my sister, Anya. Anya Overmann, of course, Anya Overmann is an American. She's not new here, only that we have rebranded. She used to come here when we called it a Call to Activism Africa. Now we have rebranded it to Humanist TV Africa since October. We are now running as Humanist TV Africa, and basically we are broadcasting daily. Unlike last year when we were broadcasting only on Saturday. But Anya, of course, made several appearances. And when I had Anya with Linda, I had the best woman in the world. Now I only have one. I only have one left. So, Anya, how have you been?
I've been good. It's good to see you, Kato. It's been too long.
It has been a bit of 3 months there of struggle. Anya, now, I know every day there are people viewing us and people coming on this set for the first time. I request you to briefly introduce yourself. Who is Anya? This lady they see on the camera. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm Anya Overmann. I have been a humanist basically my whole life. I was fortunate enough to be raised in a movement called Ethical Culture, which is a humanist adjacent religion in the US mostly. And I grew up in that since I was 5 years old, since I was in kindergarten. So I have a long history of being involved in humanist spaces. And I got very involved as a teenager, and then when I was a young adult as well. And that led me to my work internationally with Humanist International, and that's how Kato and I actually met, is through that work. And
Yeah.
today I am more active in humanist spaces stateside, but still very involved globally. I'm also a digital nomad, so I am living out of two bags and just kind of working from wherever I am in the world. And currently, where I am in the world is Guatemala City. This is my third time here. Kato and I were talking before the show about how I'm back here again, and I often find myself back here. It's just a place that I really enjoy and have some really good friends here. So yeah, that's me. I am a writer. I'm an activist. I care deeply about addressing white supremacy culture, which is what we are talking about today. I've been on the show talking about that before, but not around a specific conflict like we're going to speak about today. So that's me.
Now you have heard it. And yeah, people cannot stop loving you because when you start talking, they are listening. And you have a beautiful story to tell. Of course, we cannot finish this program. I mean, we can finish the entire program by introducing you. It's a
Mm,
long story, honestly. You have done a lot of work at a very young age. I should say, I first met Anya, interestingly, in Norway.
mhm.
Unless I forget that.
No, that's true.
About 9 years ago or 8 years ago. But it was Norway first. Then we began meeting elsewhere in our conferences and meetings. Of course, all of me and you were youth leaders at that time.
Mhm,
Now, of course, Anya has done lots of good work. That's why you see I'm very proud of her because I know her journey and I know her consistency. You know, that kind of consistency. Someone says A today and A tomorrow and A the other day. And that's Anya. If it's wrong, it's wrong. She's going to tell you it's wrong. Now, that's why you have my respect, Anya, and that's why I always want to get you back here, and I'm happy we shall continue collaborating. Now, today, we are talking about a big animal, and you are the one fronting it every time. People fear talking about it. It's called supremacy, and the topic today is an analysis of white supremacy, Zionism, and the conflict in Gaza. Now, this is a big, big topic. We have been pinching a bit of it here and there. We have presented papers on this very topic, especially white supremacism. We haven't touched a bit of Zionism with you here, but I've been
mhm,
following you on Facebook, and I admire your advocacy there. We have been talking about the conflict in Gaza and speaking for truth and justice, looking for equity, inclusiveness, fairness, all those values. And here you have stood your ground and talked about these issues. And people say, why does she do that? Now, actually, I'm going to ask you that very question. Anya, why do you bother so much talking about these things when they put you in
Yeah,
danger in the first place?
yeah. I mean, I think it's a good question and it's valid because, as we've seen, this is a very sensitive topic.
Mm,
And there's a lot of heated emotions involved when you
mm,
when you breach this topic. I feel very strongly that as a white woman that is from the United States and whose tax dollars, frankly, are going to Israel, that I need to be saying something about that because I do not support that my tax dollars are going to Israel to support this war on Gaza. I don't support that. And I think it's really important that I use my voice and particularly my privilege, my positionality in the world to speak about that. Because right now, and we can get into this deeper for sure, but right now, white women from the US in particular are very silent on this issue. And in fact, really making things difficult in a way that I think we often assign that sort of harsh perpetuating of white supremacy to white men. But white women really play a very strong role in it as well, almost more so in certain ways. So I feel that given my identity and my position in the world, that it's really important for me to say these things. And yes, there are certainly consequences. I've really alienated myself from a lot of my network for saying these things. And to me, like, that is, it's just worth the cost of speaking up, because this is a issue that touches all of us. And whether or not people see that, it's a thing that is true and needs to be spoken about continuously, because this is genocide. And genocide is something that we cannot ignore as human beings. I mean, it if it's okay there, then it becomes okay other places. And who's to say that it won't touch my life or your life in a more direct way? So that is kind of the overall reasoning behind why I do this, why I speak up.
It's admirable, Anya. I should tell you, it's admirable. If people don't tell you this, me at least I tell you in my lifetime that what you do is admirable. And you are the only one I know can do this anyway. Now, having said that, Anya, let us now look at the three terms we have here: white supremacy, Zionism, and of course the conflict in Gaza. In the last shows we had with you, we talked about white supremacy.
Mhm.
But for the benefit of the viewers joining us today, I'm going to request you to again, in a brief, maybe 5 minutes, go back into white supremacy. What's wrong with white supremacism? Because I should tell
Sure.
you about black supremacism also.
We should definitely talk about that too. Sure. So yeah, let's talk about white supremacy. I think when people think of white supremacy, it's often like this very extreme version of it, which is very
Mm.
open and outwardly hateful, like Ku Klux Klan. Like that's what people think of when they think of white supremacy, but it is a lot more insidious and inside of all of us in a way that I don't know that we fully embrace or understand. It's all socialized within us from a young age. You, me, everybody. So
Mm.
it takes a lifetime to unlearn that, no matter what. I mean, it doesn't really matter where you're coming from. If you have dark skin or light skin, you have been indoctrinated by this system, because that is a system that is in place globally. So I want to challenge that idea of white supremacy only being this very like vitriolic, outward facing, like Ku Klux Klan type, because it's in all of us. There is internalized white supremacy within me that I'm still unlearning every single day. It takes a lifetime. So I just want to position white supremacy in that way. It's not it while it is definitely a bad thing. What is not bad is admitting that you have a role in it, that you are part of this, because we don't have a choice. We're born into this. It's just a system, and systems are not the same as individuals. And we can detach ourselves from systems if we choose to challenge them and really address what's at the core. So that is white supremacy. It's a system that we are all indoctrinated with from birth, and whether or not we we have white skin, all of us have internalized it to some degree, and that is the nature of it. Very similar to patriarchy, it is also a system that we all are indoctrinated with, regardless of our gender, and one that we must unlearn over our lives. So that is white supremacy. Do we want to talk a little bit more about Zionism, or do we want to talk about keep talking
We
about
shall
this?
now go straight into Zionism. I want you to, first of all, educate us what is Zionism. Then we marry it with white supremacism, if they can marry anyway.
Oh, they can. They surely can. Yeah. So Zionism
Mm.
is, the way that I like to describe it is, it's a belief in a religious story. And I think that that's the best way to describe the overarching nature of Zionism, because I think when we think Zionism right now in the context of this conflict, which we'll then get into a little bit more, I think we think of, oh, it's the same as being Jewish, and that's not true.
That's awesome.
You can be a Christian Zionist. In fact, Joe Biden just said this week on video that he identifies as a Zionist, which that is problematic, and we will certainly get into that. But the problem with Zionism is that it is very similar to these beliefs. What's foundational to this belief is an entitlement to land, in the same way that Nazi Germany felt entitlement to land, in the same way that the colonizers that stepped foot on North America felt entitlement to the land. It's the manifest destiny, but it's Zionism, and it's in the Middle East. So really at the core of Zionism is a land entitlement. And if you don't, now I think we should back up just a step, because Zionism, as we've just noted, is not exclusive to Jewish individuals. And it is certainly not a system of belief that all Jewish people subscribe to. It's a subset. So, and like I said, there is Christian Zionism as well. And I think that piece gets lost a lot of times in this conflict, because it's weird. I think from an atheist perspective, you're like, well, wait a minute, why do Christians want that? How do they have skin in this game? Well, if you look back at the story, there's a belief that if all the Jewish people gather in one place, it'll trigger the second coming of Jesus. And that is the Christian investment into Zionism. It is this underlying belief that it will trigger the return of their guy, which is separate from the Jewish Zionist interest in the land, which is the land, right? So there are some insidious beliefs, there are some narratives around Zionism that, depending on what religion you're coming from, there's different motives in following Zionism. But at the end of the day, it's pretty icky. I mean, there's a lot there that justifies some horrendous crimes against humanity. And I don't know if we want to transition into the conflict in Gaza yet, but I just want to lay that base that Zionism is not exclusively something that Jewish people participate in. It's certainly not something that all Jewish people participate in or believe in. I want to mention the name of an organization real fast here before we continue. It's called Jewish Voices for Peace. Very fantastic organization that advocates against Zionism. I mean, they make it very clear they don't stand with Zionists, and they don't believe in this entitlement to land, and they don't believe that there is justification to do harm to Palestinians in the way that the state of Israel is doing. So that's Zionism.
That's beautiful, Anya. Anya, you are right. I've done shows here on this very TV about Zionism, and I've basically touched Jewish voices. That Jewish voices against Zionism, actually, that have been able to air their news here, and I admire them. Actually, I've seen their campaigns, I think in the US, even in the UK here, they are campaigning against Zionism and against the conflict in Gaza. Now, and you are right, Anya, Zionism is bigger than Jews. And you are right again. Not every Jew is a Zionist. Because to me, you understand a Zionist is this feeling that you have a special place, a so-called holy place. So it means that where Anya is born and me, ours are not holy. There is a special holy place. I tell you, Anya, black people like me, who are Christians, many of them are Zionists, even without mentioning it. Because we are talking about going to Israel. In fact, those who have money, including my sister, I can whisper, she's a strong Catholic, our firstborn. I want to mention the name, she knows herself. She's a staunch Catholic. She has gone to Israel and German and all these conferences, because she's a strong worshiper in Uganda. She's a member of a big Christian church. I respect my sister, of course. I love her very much. But if I say Zionist, she must be among them, because people in Africa think that there is a special place which is so holy. And when they go there, they are going to be united with the God. The same thing like the Muslims looking at Saudi Arabia. That's not Zionism, maybe, but a different version. Now, see, Africans who are Christians wanting to go to Jerusalem because it's a holy place. To me, those are Zionists in a way. Those are Christian Zionists. Then see Jews who think that this land belongs to them, and when they gather there, God is going to come and listen to them. Those are Zionists. But not every Jew actually is a Zionist. That's the misconception people get. And people think that when you say something against Zionism, you hate Jews. No. There is a difference between Semitism or anti-Semitism and Zionism. And I want to thank you so much for making this clear on your page. I follow it, I love it, and I believe that what we are doing is exactly right. Now, Anya, before we go to the conflict in Gaza, let us go a bit back to white supremacy and Zionism. Is there a linkage between these two? White supremacy and Zionism?
Yes, and now this is where it's going to get a little bit touchy, because this is where, in my point of explaining that, people typically break down and accuse me of being anti-Semitic. And before I get into that real fast, I just want to add a little point of clarification about what Semitism is. Being a Semite is coming from a specific language tree, a branch of language, which actually includes Palestinians. So
Exactly.
I just want to put that out there, because I think a lot of people don't understand that when you say anti-Semitism, you're not just talking about Israeli people or Jewish people. You're talking about people that have come from a specific branch of language, which includes Palestinians.
Some of them are in Africa. Just to cut you short, some of them are in Africa. Who are Semites. Anyone can research. So
yes, it's just, we're so used to hearing it being said in a context of hatred against Jewish people that I think we forget that greater context of what Semitic means. So I just wanted to add that flavor, I guess, that truth to this, because the accusations of anti-Semitism to me are particularly ironic, because again, Palestinians are also Semites. So that piece. And that is actually a great transition into how white supremacy and Zionism intersect. Because if you can only be anti-Semitic towards Jewish people, then hold on a second. Well, wait a minute. How does that work? Because there's other Semitic people in that area. And you don't use that term when it's used against people with darker skin, Arabs. You don't use that term. Why? Why do we not use that term, Kato? Well, my theory is that it has to do with white supremacy culture. Because I want to zoom out just a little bit. So in the US, there is a particular phenomenon that's happening right now with a lot of white Jewish women who are Zionists and maybe didn't necessarily identify that way before, but after the attack on October 7th, feel very strongly about identifying in that way. And what we're seeing in the United States with white women doing that is that they are turning on Black people in the process of doing that. And there's this particular video I'm thinking of right now that went viral of there was a protest, a demonstration for, advocating for Palestine that went through this mall in San Jose, California. And this white Jewish woman was standing on the balcony of the mall overlooking this protest, shouting at them, screaming at these people. And then she started spitting. She spit on these people. And in the process of spitting on these people, she accidentally spit on this little Black girl that I want to say like 7 years old, 8 years old, very young. And so the father of this little girl turns to the woman and says, "You spit on my daughter." like, and she freaks out because she's already, activated. She's extremely emotional. I mean, if you spit on somebody in public, you're pretty activated, right? So she goes on to yell at this dad and this little girl, and as they're walking away, she yells a slur at them, a like effing black people, like that was the slur. And it was caught on camera, and there's no way that this woman's life is not ruined now for saying that, because that, I mean, come on. So in any effort that she was making to advocate for Israel, for Zionism, for whatever, she completely messed it up by being really racist. So, and this is a phenomenon we're really seeing a lot in the US, I believe in Europe as well. It's really triggering this, wait a minute, I advocated for Black lives, and now when I feel like I'm in danger, they're not helping me. And this is extremely revealing, Kato. It's extremely revealing because it's really saying, like, okay, so this entire time that you were, let's say these women went out for um, demonstrations in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd in the US by a white police officer who kneeled on his neck. That was a huge moment in the US where a lot of white women, had this realization that, oh, wow, like, no, we do actually need to show up for Black lives because this is messed up. Well, now we're seeing that this was transactional for a lot of white women. This was simply I'm putting a moral deposit in this bank of morality, and I expect to withdraw it later when I feel like I'm owed. That is not allyship. It's certainly not supporting Black lives. It's just more white supremacy. It's performative. It's image laundering. That's what it is. And that is a serious thing that is happening with the intersection of white supremacy and Zionism right now, is this crocodile tears of, well, I helped you, why are you not helping me? But what these white women are not understanding is they're advocating for things that are like fascist, and they're adjacent to Nazi war crimes. They really are. And I think that needs to be named. I mean, nobody really likes saying, yeah, the people that had a Holocaust against them are now organizing in this way. And I'm saying this in a very general sense. Obviously, it's not all Jewish people. But, nobody wants to say like the people that were hurt are now doing harm. But that is a human thing, Kato, right? If we get hurt, sometimes we act out to try and get that hurt out. It doesn't work, but this is a very human thing. And I think we need to acknowledge that, because yes, it's horrible, but this is something that it just happens with humans. Hurt people. And that's not a necessity. It doesn't have to happen, but it certainly takes a lot of effort to come away from that very human tendency to, I was wronged, I deserve, I deserve to live in this world and not feel fear. I deserve to live in this world and feel safe. That can really pendulum swing into something else, which is what we're seeing in Israel with IDF. I mean, the hatred, the vitriol with which IDF is moving through this conflict. I mean, I don't know if you've seen videos, but I've seen countless videos of people that are, with Israel, just saying some of the most horrible things, doing the most horrible things to Palestinians in the name of this ethno state. And that is very fascist. And I mean, we I think also need to consider how many people in Israel have white skin. Like, it's like something like 75%. It might be more than that. But, all of these people came from different parts of the world to live in Israel. And now there's this noticeable racial difference between Israelites and many of the other Arab people in that region. There's a noticeable difference. And I'll also say, side note, that Israel in the Middle East is the country that has by far the most skin cancer. So these are not people whose skin were they lived in Europe for a long time. A lot of these people were living in North American or European or Northern Asian places for generations, and their skin is white. So that is another facet of it. Yeah, they're Semites, but look at their skin color. There's another layer happening there. That's what intersectionality is. We're taking Zionism and we're crossing it with white supremacy, and we're right here in the intersection. We're seeing how they're crossing, and it's brutal. It is brutal the way that they intersect. The damage that it justifies is enormous. So that's the layering of white supremacy and Zionism on top of each other. Shall I move into the conflict in Gaza?
Yes, before that, I'm going to make just one observation from what you have said, maybe two. That one, you are very right. I was reading something to do with Israel, and I discovered that they have stopped people within Israel from doing DNA, I think, for the last 2-3 years. Why? Because if they do DNA, there are going to be more Europeans than Jews.
Yes.
Why? Because they are product of Jews and Europeans. In fact, like 95% of them have European passports. They are Jews, they are Israelites, but also they are Americans. They are Germans, they are Australians. I mean, now this is the composition of people, and no one can blame them because they lived away for over 2,000 years. It is understandable. They are Europeans who are Jews. We understand that. So when you say that, it takes me back to why are they refusing to do a DNA? Because it's going to expose them that, look, you are maybe 5% Semite.
Yeah.
Actually, you are more of Anya than a Semite.
Yes, exactly.
So they don't want these things to come out. Secondly, whatever they are doing to justify whatever they are justifying is wrong. That some people have said, as we have said correctly, this is fascism. This is what Mussolini was doing. Mussolini of Italy went to Ethiopia and burnt Ethiopians and used gas, used a bomb. It wasn't even allowed. He's fighting with Ethiopians and he's using a deadly virus, deadly weapon to finish them off. Fascism. That's how fascism works. Now, people are equating what Netanyahu is doing in Gaza to fascism, and I agree with them. Lastly, people are saying that this is revised Holocaust. This is a revisionism of Holocaust. Yes, all of us condemn Germany under Hitler for killing Jews. They were innocent people. They were very innocent people. But what they are doing today in Gaza is a revision of Holocaust. So we are asking ourselves, didn't you learn that it was bad for you to be butchered like that? To also go and butcher other people like that, who are, by the way, your brothers and sisters? Now, this takes us to the third layer of our discussion, the conflict in Gaza. I know you have been writing on this. Tell us about your perception about this conflict in Gaza.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you can already see where I'm going with this. I mean, it is completely unjustifiable given the reasons that I've laid out. I mean, the reasoning behind it. Let's say that these people that I would consider settlers, because as you've pointed out, Kato, most of their DNA is European descent. It's not Semitic descent.
No.
And a lot of, and let's say that these people do deserve a space to live in that part of the world. Okay, sure. But do they deserve to wipe other people off the earth, to kick them out of their homes? I mean, that's how it all started. I mean, the British handed over Palestine to create this state of Israel, and it wasn't theirs to give. They were colonizers as well. So, it all started with this unjust giving away of something that was not theirs. And then these people start showing up and kicking Palestinians out of their homes just to live there. I mean, Palestine used to be so much bigger than Gaza and the West Bank. Like, it's been just decimated over the last several decades, for the last 75 years. So this conflict, yeah, I mean, I think that there are ways to justify being there, but as soon as you start killing everybody, all of those justifications go out the window. The argument, legitimacy of that argument is gone. Because how can you be holy people on holy land that is it's a cemetery. You're building on top of a cemetery. It's not, how holy is it really? I mean, if it's a cemetery, if it's just, it's really twisted. And I think the difference between, there's a big difference between reactions to the Holocaust and being never again to anybody versus never again to me and mine.
Yeah.
And that is what you see in Zionism versus people that are not Zionists. You see never again to me. And these are the same people that will say that, no, you're being anti-Semitic. And again, that's ironic given that it does include Palestinians. But when people weaponize that, oh, that's anti-Semitic, they are using it as a shield from accountability. And that is what they know that they have. They know that they can play that and that they can use that to justify genocide. They can use that to justify their white supremacy. They use all of that. And it is, I mean, disingenuous to say the least. I mean, it just doesn't justify the death, it's brutal. This is a war that I don't think I've ever seen anything so violent in my life. And I've lived through a number of wars at this point. So I don't see how we as humanists could justify this. And frankly, Kato, I don't know about you, but I am hearing humanists justify this. And that is bizarre to me because we have no skin in this game. I mean, we don't believe in any of this stuff. We don't believe in Christianity. We don't follow Jewish doctrine. We don't follow Muslim doctrine. We don't follow any of it. So to see humanists justifying the fascist ethno-state of Israel and its complete genocide of Palestinians is bizarre. And I am curious if you have any take on that, Kato, because I do, but I'd like to hear your thoughts first.
Anya is Jew. I love that. Now, Anya, let me take you a bit back. Of course, you know this, but our viewers, back into history. When Anya is talking, you say, I want to listen because she talks beautifully, and of course, she's passionate about things she talks about. But taking you back a bit, our listeners, you're right that the British handed over Palestine to the Jews. That's a fact, because Palestine by that time was under the Ottoman Empire. And of course, we see it from 1917, these guys having agreements with people like Rothschild, the family of the richest Jew in the UK, the financier of Germans, of English and others. Rothschild. No one is saying that we are condemning these people, no. But we are speaking facts because they were promised their home. They are promised to go back home. This is the beginning of Zionism, 1917. Now we see UA in 1947 passing a resolution, and these guys are going back. Now, to me, Anya, as an African was an ancestral land, to me, going back was okay. Just as we have said, because this is their land. To me, I still believe that the piece of land where they are, it was theirs. To me, I believe that. But I also believe that the Palestinians, they are brothers and sisters. Therefore, there's no difference between them and their brothers. And yet, if you have a brother or sister, there's no difference. You are the same. So I always think they could share this piece of land. Anyway, going forward, Anya, I'm looking forward to what's happening. I've seen the leaders of Israel, Netanyahu, for example, calling these people dogs, calling these people animals, a leader. I've seen
children
Netanyahu,
of the dark, which is the same exact language that Hitler used, by the way.
I've seen Netanyahu making a statement quoting a biblical verse, I think it's Samuel or something, where he says God allowed them, the Jews of that time, to go and kill Amalekites. I watched him say this, reading it to his soldiers, encouraging them to go and kill. God, he called Samuel. I'm forgetting the verses, but there was, I think, Samuel where God of the Jews, because that God is not my God, is God of the Jews. That's why I always wonder why people like me actually worship a God of the Jews. It's your God, not mine. But anyway, he was saying that the God of the Jews ordered his sons and daughters to go and kill Amalekites. In the Bible, it's there. So, and this is a leader of a country who is telling his soldiers to go and kill. And killing in the Jewish way is decimating. You kill children, you leave nothing alive. And yeah, this is terrible. And when you look at it from the ministers themselves, in Israel, I can mention names and I have their quotations. They cannot deny it. All of them saying, kill them, kill them, including raping them. That their kind of book allows them to do that. Now, I begin wondering, where is the morality in this kind of thing? And you said it right, Anya, you said it should have been never again to anyone, including us. But don't say never again to us, but not to you. Because if you were saying that never again should we see a Holocaust to anyone, all of us would agree with this militant IDF. But if you are saying never again to us, but we are doing the same thing to others, it's very disturbing. Lastly, Anya, look at the death toll in Gaza. And I've been saying this on this very channel, that the people killed in Gaza in the last 4 weeks, now 5 weeks, or even 6, are more than the people that have been killed in Ukraine. They can go and research.
Yeah.
They can go and research. Now, this is terrible. This is genocide. We can blame Russia all you want, whoever blames them. But Russia has been very sympathetic in killing people in Ukraine than Netanyahu and his IDF. They are killing more people than what has been killed in almost 2 years. In Ukraine, we are saying death is bad. No one says killing Ukrainians is good. No one says that. But we're saying that this is a full Holocaust before our eyes. And sadly, lastly, we see the powerful country in the world, your country, the US, using your money to go and kill people. And yeah, to me, as an African, it makes me sad. And as a humanist, lastly, Anya, as a humanist, it makes me so sad to see that there are some humanists who are happy with this. To me, it makes me so sad that there are some NGOs of humanists that will never speak about this. I won't mention them. Please don't mention them. They will take offense. But to me, they know themselves, of course. To me, I take offense that there are NGOs that are supposed to follow, but will never issue a single statement to condemn killing of people. I begin questioning, are these NGOs really humanistic or not? Over to you, Anya.
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, so about that, about humanists and the support of Israel. I found it really difficult to figure that out at first. But here's where I think we can draw the intersection is not religion, right? Because we have no interests or no support in that. It's with white supremacy culture. And that's a thing that, a regular criticism that I have of the broader humanist movement is that, yes, you may have escaped religion and moved on from that, but you haven't escaped white supremacy culture. It's still very much present in humanist communities. And to that end, that is part of the reason why so many humanists I have noticed have gotten swept up in the support of Israel is because of this white supremacy culture. It is extremely indoctrinated within us. And from a US perspective specifically, this is something that we have been learning for, we have been taught that Israel is like best friends with the United States, and that, well, we should just support them because they're our friends. And I mean, that is questionable for the US with anybody, but particularly with Israel, because our money goes specifically to weaponry, to funding this war, to bombs, to destruction. So, and Israel trades with the US. There's a lot of investment into weapons, into creating weapons in Israel. I mean, it's essentially this settler colony outpost for the West, for the U.S. specifically, but it's an outpost. And I mean, we can't ignore the political strategy behind that, because when you have an outpost for the U.S. smack dab in the middle of everything in the Middle East, yeah, that's pretty strategic and it's pretty intentional. So I think that piece of it too, it's really hard for people from the U.S. to step away from that and see the political strategy behind it. That's just not how a lot of people from the U.S. think. It's very hard, and when you don't know anything about the rest of the world, you get most of your information about the rest of the world from Western media. There's no reason for you to think that Israel is doing anything wrong. I mean, the headlines that we get peddled in the US are so soft and gentle on Israel and its actions. I mean, whenever something happens to Palestine, it's this thing happened in Gaza. There is no attribution to who did the thing. There is no IDF bombed these people and killed all these people. There's no, they take the actor completely.
Yes,
out.
Anya.
Oh, I lost you there for a second. You still there? Good.
Continue, Anya. Yes, I might have lost you because of network, but I'm still there, Anya. Let us continue. I'm listening.
Yeah, so I think that is really where this justification comes from non-religious people that are from the West. Yes. Is it comes from this idea that, well, this is how it's always been, this is what we know, and it is a white supremacist narrative that we are hit with every single day in the media from Joe Biden. I mean, Joe Biden has gone nuts with Zionism. He's not ashamed to say he's a Zionist. And I remember watching this clip of him from, I want to say like 30 years ago, when he was like in Congress saying, oh yeah, you don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist, which was said with like a welling up of pride. He was extremely proud to share that he was a Zionist. And then he doubled down this week and said it again. And this way I think we are going to look back on this, I hope, and say, oh my God, like the US president was basically aligning himself with the modern day Nazis. Like, that's crazy. And it is crazy. And we're going to have some huge political fallout next year in the US because of this. I mean, this is really affecting the way that our elections will go down. I mean, this is not, this issue is a lot bigger than Gaza. I mean, it's rippling out to affect a lot of different things. And that's what we're going to see next year too with our elections, is that a lot of people that were going to support Joe Biden in the election next year will not, because of this. And he had this opportunity to really put himself above Trump, where the bar is super low, and he has decided to double down on hateful beliefs. And he's lost a lot of Arab supporters because of that. And then another thing that I want to bring up too is that with Zionism, there is often this equating of Islam with Arabs. And that is unfair. It's not honest. They're not synonymous. One is a religion, one is an ethnicity. And that is the thing that Zionism latches on to. They group them together. If you're Arab, you're Islam. If you're Arab, you're Muslim. If you're Muslim, you're Arab. That's just not true. But that is part of the strategy to justify the genocide and the white supremacy culture, is by equating them as one and the same when they're not. So I don't know if you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I have thoughts on that, Anya, and that's beautiful, Anya. That's a good way of looking at it. Of course, people have biases. That's why I was coming out to say avoid this issue of hating on Muslims. There's something
Hmm.
as hating on Jews, because not every Jew is actually interested in killing people in Gaza. That's
Right.
absolutely a lie. Not every Muslim is actually violent, but people use these stereotypes, of course, for their own end. And yeah, looking at the US, the US is the number one financier of Israel.
Hmm.
In fact, your country and your money, your tax money, helped Israel to build that dawn, that warfare, that technology that gets the bombs and missiles. It was
Yeah.
your money. It was your taxpayers' money. You
By
pay
the way, that makes
billions.
me furious. I'm
Yeah,
furious that my money goes to that and I have no
exactly.
control over that.
And what annoys is that many Americans, thousands, possibly millions of Americans, have gone to the streets. I've seen them in Washington. I've seen them in several other states. They have gone to the streets to say, not in our name,
Yeah,
including Jews. People are saying, not in our name. But again, you look at Biden, a man I supported. I'm not American, of course, but we have sides. I chose
sure.
Biden. That was my choice. And I was like, I want this man there, because I thought we share views, we share ideologies. But I'm taken back because the guy is extremely not concerned with the killing going on for days, for weeks. And I begin asking, where is the conscience of Biden and his government? How do these guys sleep when they see pregnant women being killed, babies of one day, hospitals being bombed? Where is their consciousness? Lastly, Anya, what's coming to my mind, and of course to the mind of many analysts, is imperialism, American
Hmm.
imperialism. I don't
Yeah.
know you as an American see this, but to me, I think that American imperialism is going out of the window. It's actually too much. And we are seeing it in Gaza. What's your take on that?
That's an interesting thought. Yeah, well, like I said before, I view Israel as an outpost, a settler
Mm,
colonial outpost of the US. They're
mm,
there with their binoculars, looking at their Arab neighbors. It's politically advantageous to them.
mm, mm,
So I yeah, I mean this is US imperialism. I mean, this is it. It is the relation. You cannot deny the relationship, the
mm,
financial relationship between the two nations. Israel wouldn't be able to be what it is without US support. And that's why you see so many people in the streets in the US saying not in my name. It's because we have the power to stop this conflict. We have the power to completely take the the violent means away from Israel, and we don't. We are the people that we have in power are too invested in Israel. I mean, Joe Biden has investments in Israel. Gas is a thing. So I think it's tricky because a lot of people don't understand imperialism. A lot of US people do not understand that concept. And we've been indoctrinated with, I mean, I grew up believing, well, being taught that manifest destiny was the justification for why I and my ancestors deserve to live in the United States. It's the same. It's the same justification as Zionism. It's, well, this land, you are divinely entitled to live on this land. Yeah, there were some people here before, but you, it's for you. It's for you. You're so special. That's the belief. And that is
exactly.
what we grew up being taught
Mm,
in US public school and private school, that we're entitled to land. So it's also difficult for us to look at Israel and try and make a criticism about about land entitlement when we have used the same argument to exist
mm.
where we exist. So that US imperialism is, a lot of US people are very blind to it because the same narrative has played out at home, and we don't want to recognize that either.
I love Yanya for that. You have made it so beautiful, and you're right. People in America basically are settlers. They came
It's
from
true.
Germany, they came from UK, they came from Australia, they came from Canada, they came from everywhere and found this new world, as they called it, and settled there. And
Hmm.
actually went ahead to chase away Native Americans, the Indians, and others, the Cherokees and others were chased away by Americans who are Europeans. You are European, and yeah,
Yeah,
you guys are Europeans, but you went to
yeah,
America and dominated. So you are right, and I agree with you. That's imperialism, but they can't accept that. That actually, even
no.
where they are, it is simply
Hmm.
took over. They find the virgin land and took over. Now, there's something of entitlement. I call it entitlement. Yes, I agree with Jews in Israel for being there. To me, I'm okay with them being there. It's theirs. But again, to say that even where the Palestinians are is your land, to me, it's insane. Because they say,
Yeah,
even where you are, you must go away. That's why they've been trying to bomb them, chase them to Egypt, take
yeah.
over, take over their land. I mean, why don't you coexist? And you're going forward because we have 4 minutes left, and I'm going to leave them to you to conclude. But again, as we conclude, because we shall have you back more and more and more on the set, talk about the things. As we go forward, Anya, how do we see us resolving this conflict? As I mean, you and me and people and the world. What can be the contribution? What can we do to simply put sanity in the heads of these insane people behind the conflict?
Yeah, so it's really hard because Israel has been playing this propaganda war for its entire existence. And so there is so much support and so much blindness to what's happening because it's a propaganda war. And Israel has, I would say, until recently been winning that propaganda war. But I think within the last couple of months, since October 7th, we've started to see that content from Palestine, from Gaza, has been making it out. And now the visibility that this what's happening in Gaza, there's so much more visibility of it now. And now we're seeing more young people really listening and advocating and feeling strongly that this is not okay. So I personally have a lot of hope for the young people that are stepping up to speak out, particularly young people that are in positions of privilege, like myself. I'm very inspired by that, and I think that is our best hope, is to really, count on young people to see this and to say something about it, because older folks are so indoctrinated that at this point, I am not sure that we will see many older folk come away from that indoctrination at this point. It's been years of indoctrination. And, I'm one of those people that thinks anybody can learn at any age or unlearn at any age. But the motivation is not necessarily there. We're not incentivized to unlearn these things because these things that we've learned prop up our own privilege, our own justification for doing these horrible, horrible things. And if we criticize it, then we are basically saying, I don't think that I should have a special place in the world. I think that I should be just like everybody else. We should all be on the same level footing. And that takes away the privilege. That is what you're advocating for when you're advocating against these, against Israel. So I think that is what's so difficult about this, is that it's so much bigger than religion, than ethnicity, than it's an issue of colonialism. It's an issue of capitalism. These are systemic issues that this conflict is playing right into. And that's why it's so difficult to talk about it. It stretches across so many oppressive systems, and these oppressive systems are so deeply ingrained into people as being the way, the right way, that it's just going to be really hard. And I think it's going to take years for us to really embrace how messed up it is right now with this situation. I think it's going to be young people that really turn the tide. And as for, supporting this effort, I think the most important thing that people like you and I can do right now is spreading this education, this material, this content that's coming out of Gaza, because that is the thing that is true, and Western media is attempting to stifle this information coming out of Gaza because it counters the narrative. And yeah, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg is in on it. All these social media owners are Western billionaires that are actively invested in imperialism, and they don't get to justify their wealth unless they can justify imperialism, colonialism, settlerism. That's part of their justification for hoarding their wealth. So yeah, so when you're on social media and you're sharing this stuff, you're probably going to be punished by the algorithm, because the guys that own the algorithm stand to gain by you not sharing that information. So they're trying to throttle it. And it can mean that, you get a lot less seen on social media because of that. But I think it's still just really important to keep finding ways to break through that algorithm, because I'm struggling with it, but I'm still seeing content from Palestine. I still see it. I still see it every single day. So it is working. It's just a giant mountain of a challenge to fight against Western propaganda. There's so much money in it. It's a huge industry, and it is owned by, the richest people in the world who stand to lose a lot if we hold Israel accountable. So it's a huge, huge thing. I mean, capitalists are very invested in protecting their image here, and that means supporting Israel. Like, at the end of the day, that's it. So that's what we can do, is spread information, spread education, keep amplifying voices from Gaza.
Thank you so much, Anya. And as I've said, rightly so, what we can do is to spread the information. Whatever means we have is to spread the good news, to change attitude. Anya, I love that kind of conclusion, because it's what we can do at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
We can't fight giants with machine guns we don't have. We only have our mouths and our phones and our TV stations like this one to speak. What we can do now as young people, right as so you said, is to rally behind the right cause and speak the truth. I think that was the best way forward you gave for all of us. Let us stand united. Let us speak as young people. And of course, young people, I'm no longer a young person anyway, but young people have the future. And yeah, you and others like you have the future. If people can change their attitudes and they begin stopping this culture of self-entitlement. I mean, they know others as human beings too. I think we are going to make a world a better place. And yeah, I want to thank you so much for being part of that. Of course, I want to thank you so much for all the shows you have made with us. And of course, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Of course, the shows we're going to be doing together, the advice we want to get from you, as of course, our person giving us the ears from the US. And yeah, it's going to be a very big addition to our team. We are very proud to have you on our team. And of course, we shall be boosting this conversation, because now we have some little money to boost some of our shows. So what we are going to do to beat Zuckerberg is to boost it, because they want the money. That's what we do. And we are going to boost it. You will see the viewers will quite be many. So Anya, I want to thank you so much again for making the time to appear here, and I always look forward to having you again in the next show. Thank you so much, Anya.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it.
And see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.